Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with one of your suggestions, the ideal list of Dvořák symphonies. That means a list of all 9 where there are no weak links whatsoever. That doesn't mean it's all my favorite versions or all the best, because there is no such thing as the best. There's a range of bests. And from that range, I have selected 9 fabulous performances. You cannot go wrong. And I don't repeat any conductors. They're all different. And so if you want to do your ideal list of Dvořák symphonies, I encourage you to attempt something similar. The catch here, and this is really very interesting, is that, Dvořák symphonies fall in 2 clumps, the early ones and the later ones. And the early ones are sort of like 1 through 5, and the later ones are like 6 through 9. Even though 5 really belongs with the later ones, but it wasn't recorded as much. So it's actually rather difficult to have a big range of choices for the early ones, because they just haven't gotten as much attention. We have to have the usual suspects in most of those. On the other hand, once you get past number 6, sky's the limit. So we have a lot to choose from. And here is the list. So without further ado, Symphony number 1, The Bells of Zlonice, whatever it's called. No one knows why it's called that. Maybe the opening has a vaguely bell-like thing. So let's start right off with István Kertesz, the LSO, on Decca. Why is this such a great number 1? Well, first of all, it has all the repeats, and it's uncut. Most conductors make some nips and tucks in this symphony because Dvořák never heard it, and he thought it was lost, and he certainly would have revised it or done something to it. So conductors subsequently feel that they can, but I want to hear everything he wrote. It's a young, youthful, early, big, sprawling mess of a work. And it's beautiful. It has wonderful tunes. It sounds like Dvořák, and if formally it isn't entirely together, well, that's the way it goes, isn't it? But I want to hear the whole thing, and I want to hear it really well done, and Kertesz is terrific for that. Symphony number 2, another problematic work, actually. It was revised and cleaned up by Dvořák, and it's fabulous from the 3rd movement on. The first 2 movements are a little bit problematic. They sprawl also. The 2nd movement's quite beautiful. It's just long. The first movement is very pastoral. It lacks a certain element of contrast. It just needs bigger climaxes and more differentiated thematic material, which means you really, really need to keep it moving. And the performance I've chosen is Ottmar Suitner with his Berlin Symphony or Staatskapelle Berlin or whatever they're called. I don't even remember. But they're on Berlin Classics. And it's a wonderful performance. The recording is absolutely luminous, gorgeous. And the 3rd movement of this symphony, I think it should be played separately. It is so beautiful, so completely mature as a work of Dvořák. And you really ought to just start with the 3rd movement if you don't know the 2nd symphony. But one of the fascinating things about this piece is that it's in cyclical form, and all of the movements begin with the same motto. And Dvořák's trying to find ways of being symphonic. And, like a lot of young people, young, fresh composers, because he wrote this right after the 1st symphony, he's doing it in a way which is most obvious. That is by repeating some simple motives from one movement to the next. In his later works, he would figure out what a symphony really does in terms of motivic work and developmental work and how to really bind it together. But here he's still kind of experimenting, and he's still under the influence of Wagner and that gang. And so he's writing a nice, big, juicy, romantic symphony with an insufficiently contrasting first movement. But it's beautiful. And Suitner's performance has the necessary flow, and the woodwind playing is wonderful, and the balances are great. It's just a wonderfully luminous performance. Beautiful to listen to. Now, number 3 is a masterpiece, Dvořák's first. It's a very unusual work in 3 movements, with a big Wagnerian, Beethovenian funeral march in the middle, and a sort of scherzo/finale combo at the end. And my favorite recording of that, it's my favorite, and I still think it's the best one, is Pešek, which I just talked about in discussing his Dvořák cycle. It's a fabulous performance with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic, absolutely first class in every respect. So that's my choice for number 3. Number 4 is Dvořák heading towards the classical symphony model, the Beethovenian model. It's in D minor. It's a little bit turbulent. It has a fabulous scherzo, another great scherzo that's one of Dvořák's train tunes. It sounds like, I've been working on the railroad. It has that kind of tune. And my choice is Kubelik with the Berlin Phil. It's just a wonderfully fresh performance, full of rhythm and energy. You get a sense that Kubelik maybe didn't quite believe in the piece. I mean, because it has a finale that's a little bit dysfunctional, but it doesn't matter. The second movement is sort of Tannhäuser, only it's better. It actually, I think it's much better, actually. It's a theme and variations based on a trombone theme that sounds remarkably like the opening of the Tannhäuser Overture, except Dvořák does more with it than Wagner does. And it's lovely. It's a lovely, lovely work, really is. Not perfect, maybe, but you see where he's going. It's a transitional piece. And Kubelik, who feels maybe it needs a little special pleading, really digs into it. I mean, he just really, really puts it over with conviction and an extra effort, I think. So it's an exciting performance of a lovely work. It deserves to be hauled out once in a while. Next, the fifth. My, I love the fifth. It's so beautiful. It's Dvořák's first great masterpieces. It's one of It's one of the great symphonic masterpieces of the 19th century. It was the inspiration for Brahms's Third Symphony, I happen to think. Dvořák's first five were all composed before Brahms even released his first. And Brahms knew them. He knew 3, 4, 5 for sure. And 5 is an amazing piece. It's where everything comes together. And my performance of choice is Rowicki. You get the exposition repeats in the first movement, and it's exciting. It's a really, really swift, urgent, passionate, exciting performance, marvelously played by the London Symphony. It's just terrific. Number 6, well, now we're in these Dvořák biggie symphonies. Even so, 6 isn't that well known. Not as well known as it ought to be, but the performance of choice, even though it doesn't have the first movement repeat, is Ancerl. Ancerl and the Czech Phil, one of the great Dvořák recordings of all time, particularly noteworthy for Ancerl's amazing attention to Dvořák's bass lines, to the fact that this is a top-to-bottom symphony. There's a lot of stuff happening beneath the surface, and you really got to hear it, and you do hear it. It's a beautiful linear performance, very, very well recorded. You know, the Czech Phil and the Rudolfinum is a tough ensemble to try and capture properly, but they do here. The Supraphon engineers really nail it. It's glorious. So Ancerl for Dvořák 6. Number 7, we're staying with the Czech Phil, and we go to Neumann, who recorded it twice. And his mono performance is very, very good. But I like his digital one even better. It's even more exciting. It's a brilliant performance. Neumann really had a feel for this symphony. I'm not quite sure why. Some other of his Dvořák performances could be hit or miss, but the 7th is just fantastic. He always was. He gets the turbulence of the first movement, the lyricism of the second, that wonderful Czech, graceful but Slavonic dancey sort of scherzo thing, the third movement, and his finale completely nails the coda. You know, that coda where he keeps trying to find an ending, and then he finally does. It's absolutely brilliant. A wonderful, exciting performance with those fabulous Czech winds to the fore. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Number 8, Karajan and Vienna. This is one of my, however, choices. It's just a glorious performance. I've talked about it over and over again. You know, the 8th was a symphony that for some reason Karajan just got. He absolutely got it. He doesn't gloss over anything. He doesn't prettify the textures. He makes the coda of the finale, that wind up, 33 RPM to 78 speed coda, absolutely thrilling. And the Vienna Philharmonic plays it like they have that pride of being in the tradition, that Central European tradition, and it's just glorious. And it's better than his recordings with the Berlin Phil, because the Vienna Phil had its own characteristic sound that Karajan could not, erase and Karajanify. So you get this collaboration between Karajan and Vienna, and it's fabulous. It's on Decca. and it's amazing. And for number 9, it's also my however choice. It's Bernstein, the New York Phil on Sony, a New World performance of the New World Symphony. It's just the most exciting one that anybody ever did. It's really just that simple. It's just a thrill from first note to last. And it's all the more thrilling when you realize that Bernstein's remake with the Israel Phil was the worst ever New World Symphony. Slow, stodgy, horrible, badly recorded, a total mess. But this first one, thank God they caught it when they did. It's amazing. It's totally, completely of one exciting, thrilling piece. It's as fresh as the day it was written. And that, my friends, is the list. It's down below if you want to have a look. And I think that's a really, really pretty strong set of Dvořák symphonies with no weak links anywhere. The ideal Dvořák symphony cycle. I'm looking forward to hearing yours if you have one or a piece of it or whatever you think. It's just fine. Just remember, no repeats and no weak links. And if there are any, believe me, I'll point them out. I'll tell you where your weak links are. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. And thank you for the suggestion. Take care.